Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, Tania and Syngin. Let's watch.
Just feeling super alone and confused, and I feel like almost like I came out here. I don't even know what I'm doing here right now. Yeah.
Babe, I'm sorry.
Okay, so he is sad that she said, "You're not my soulmate." And he is, I think, understandably really hurt by that, especially the way she delivered it. And she comes to him and he expresses that in a very differentiated, mature way. And she says, "Oh, I'm sorry," in a very differentiated and mature way. So this conversation is starting out really, really good.
I felt like I was holding on to something that I wasn't fully sharing with you. And that's why I kind of just, it like felt good to finally let you know.
Okay, I don't think he received what you were trying, at least I don't think he received what you were trying to communicate to him. What I hope what Tania was trying to communicate to him was, I had this relationship a long time ago and it was intense, but it broke up because it should have broken up because we're not made for each other. And although my relationship with you is also intense, it's not as intense. And I love you and I want to be with you, but it doesn't feel as intense as it did in that first time. Maybe everyone is like that, which I would say, yeah, Tania, a lot of people are like that. A lot of people, when they find their forever person, the love that they feel is not as, what's the word for it? Infatuation. The infatuation isn't as strong as it was when you were 14 years old or whenever it was you had your first intense love. And maybe Syngin would say, "Oh, well, me too." But the way she framed it was, "You're not my soulmate. My soulmate is this other person in the past." So I think it's that, but there's a possibility that what Tania is saying is, "No, I believe I'm meant to be with this other man, but he doesn't like me, so I'll take you." I don't think that's what she's saying, but I think that's how it's being received, because that's kind of what she's saying, but I don't think that's what she's meaning. Let's see what they talk about here.
Like, how would you feel if you heard those exact words come out of my mouth? You think you'd just be fine about it? Like,
No, that's why I'm not mad that you're upset or anything.
Okay, that was good. So he was under the false impression that she was criticizing his sadness. And he's like, "Well, how would you feel?" And she says, no, I get how you feel. I understand that you feel hurt. So that was a good exchange as well.
And that's why I never really wanted to have that conversation, because it's like, I feel like I don't even fully understand or know what soulmates are. Like, do people only have one soulmate? Do people have multiple soulmates? Like,
yeah. So, yeah, I've talked about this previously, but if I were there, I'd say, Tania, there's no scientific evidence that there's only one person for you. that notion is doesn't make any sense, and there'd really be no way to test for that anyway. The only way to test for it would be if you literally dated every single person on the planet, and everyone dated every other person on the planet, which would probably take like trillions of years to do, and then found out like, oh yeah, there was only one person that really stood up. If you dated I'm guessing you'd be like, yeah, there were probably like, I don't know, like 2 million people that were the one. There were, after the trillions of years of dating all 7.8 billion people or whatever, there were probably like, because think about, like, if you got, I think, what is that, 8 billion? I don't know how many it is. So 1% of that is 80 million, right? Have that right? 8 billion, yeah. 80 million. So you got to figure, in terms of compatibility, it's probably like half of that. Well, let's go with 1%. So it's 8 million. So let's say 0.1% of people are, very compatible with you. That's probably generous. let's knock it down another order of magnitude to 800,000. So after dating 8 billion people for trillions of years, while you're because you got to date them for probably 10, 20 years each just to make sure, and you say there was about 800,000 ones. There were 800,000 people that were like top notch, and maybe like 80,000, another order of magnitude down, 0.0001% of people that were like, definitely like I would spend the rest of my life with any of those 80,000 people. Anyway, I don't know why I went on that jag, but my point is that someone needs to help Tania by saying this soulmate stuff is silly. Like, do you love him? Do you want to be with him? Did you have past relationships that you compare it to where you're like, I don't love him as much as I loved someone in the past? What does that tell you about your love for him? Is that a fair comparison? Is it not? That's okay. But this idea of the one is, I don't think it's helping her.
When soulmates meet, it's like a soulmate. Like we've said, our souls are meant to be, together and things like that. That's things we have literally said before. That's what kind of gets me going through the tough times when we're arguing. I'm like, hey, I believe we're meant to be, like we're soulmates, so we got to work through this. So I'm just worried.
The other thing I'll say in reaction to what he's saying is that some people don't think that soulmates are only one. Some people would say, no, there's probably about 80,000 soulmates for me on the planet, meaning that you just really feel compatible with that person. I would say that's true with me and my wife, that from the beginning of a relationship, I just noticed pretty quickly just how easy it was. Like, it wasn't hard. There was no strife. There was no struggle. There was no well, there was a couple bumps in the road in the beginning. They're kind of humorous bumps in the road that we laugh about today. But anyway, so maybe that's what he's saying is like, well, there's many soulmates. The other thing that I'll say is that maybe they're framing it as what I'm saying is that you just feel like it's right, that you shouldn't have to, like, there's many relationships where right from the beginning you're making all these excuses, and with your soulmate you don't make those excuses. Maybe that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Even if we get married now, it's like, are we compatible,
Of course, this hurt him. This was a shock, so I need to give him time to heal and things. But I'm so sure in our love and in our relationship and our future that I don't want there to be like questions that there just shouldn't be questions about.
Okay, so I'm confused. So it sounds like she has just been misinformed about soulmates, because what she's saying right now, and we know that they break up, because the only reason I'm going back and one of the reasons I'm going back and watching them is because I gave a survey on YouTube, and this couple was one of the couples that y'all asked me to go back in time. At the top of the list was, I think, Danielle and Muhammad. That's why I've been doing them. But anyway. So she's saying, no, I am 100% sure he is the one. I want to be with him. I want to marry him. I want to spend the rest of my life with him. We know that doesn't work out, but because Syngin is on, single life. But then there's this idea of the soulmate that's tripping her up, which if I were her friend, I'd be like, no, stop with the soulmate stuff. That's ridiculous. Do you want to be with him? Do you predict that things will go well? Do you love him? Do you like spending time with him? Do you want to build a life? Are you compatible with your life futures? If all that is yes, then don't worry about some weird mystic idea of a soulmate.
It's like, maybe I'm crazy for like being like, he's not my soulmate, or not even like, I don't think that you're not. But I know our souls are like, we're meant to like find each other somehow. Come on. I found you literally in a bar across the ocean. Okay, so she's repairing and expanding on what she meant, which she should have done in the beginning, I think. She's saying, look, I think our souls were meant to meet because of how we did meet. And I do find this, that for couples that have good times together,
there's usually kind of a little bit of a mystical story to, at least to the beginning, of just like, you know, what if we never met? You know, all these things had to come, you know, all these different things had to happen in order for us to have even met that one night. How, you know, the universe must have wanted us to be together. Now, you know, I think I have a different scientific explanation for that, but to have a story like that, I think it provides meaning, and it also shows that you consider this relationship to be very precious. It's something that was hard to find and was very fragilely, you know, in a very fragile way was made, and you consider it very important. So it's just a good sign that people are narrativizing it that way.
Felt about you, or how much I love you, or how much I want a future with you, how much I want to have kids with you, how much I want to just explore life. Like, that fact has never changed anything about our relationship. So you still want to marry me?
I still want to marry you.
Yeah, I mean, she did a great job. She, you know, you couldn't have done better to recover from what she had said earlier. So kudos to her for laying it on the line. And the only question I have is, does she really feel that way? Because when she was trying on wedding dresses, she sounded more ambivalent about marrying him. So is she making a mistake by acting like, or convincing herself that she really wants to be with him when she has more questions, and thus should maybe push the wedding back a little further?
Had a couple
You know
drinks
what
at work.
I
It's
think you're
fine.
overthinking. Where I come from, South Africa, I don't drink any more than anybody else. We're all the same.
Times you lost your phone, the times
Yeah,
that
I've lost shoes, shirts, relationships.
He's lost a motorcycle?
Phones, motorcycles.
lost it for 3 days.
I paid it, and he didn't even care about it.
Who paid? You didn't have the money to pay it.
All right, so they're starting to edge into codependency and overfunctioning and underfunctioning that I've talked about quite extensively before with this couple, so I don't need to rehash that. But it's not terrible, meaning that there's not a bifurcation of overfunctioning, underfunctioning. They're both kind of agreeing. So to catch you up, they're married. It was a lovely wedding ceremony. He is looking for work, and he is going to work as a bartender because that's what he has experience with, because he was a bartender in South Africa. And they're reviewing all the shenanigans he got into as a bartender in South Africa. He would drink on the job, and that was apparently normal. There would be some violence. Apparently that was normal. But he's saying, I'm not going to do that in the States. You know, in the States, there are laws and there are different customs, so I'm not going to do that. And she is worried about that, which makes total sense. She would be worried. I was like, I don't know what he's going to do. He was a pretty wild person in South Africa. I'm worried he's going to come home drunk every night from work, and that's going to stress me out. Okay, totally. You're anxious about it, but don't. So the codependent schema is such that I'm worried about something. So one, codependents are more worried than other people because of things that happened to them in the past, which is okay. But the other schemas that kick in is, and it's my job to do something about it. Instead of thinking, well, it's not my job. I'm scared. I can tell him, look, I'm worried you're going to come home drunk, and I'm just going to put that out to you. And I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But to the codependent person, they're like, I'm worried about this potential future, which may or may not happen. And I don't trust you with fixing it yourself. So I'm going to control you or help you or even chameleonize to you, which listen to my deep dive on codependency, to manage your problem, because I don't believe you can fix your problems on your own. Now, of course, codependents fit very well with people who actually don't fix their problems on their own. I don't think he is one of those people. I don't know, because we haven't seen him at work. But up until this point, he doesn't fit the profile, at least what we've seen, as someone that is inherently incompetent and underfunctioning. he might develop into that, and maybe it's going on behind the scenes. That, like, I keep bringing up Kalani and Asuelu. In the beginning of their relationship, Asuelu did present underfunctioning. He, like, I just always remember this one moment where I was like, oh boy, where he was really hurt at something Kalani said. And during his son's birthday party, he locked himself in his room and played video games all night in the dark, while everyone else was out there singing happy birthday to his son. He was acting like a child, which is a complete underfunctioning move, right? Most people would be like, well, I'm really upset, but, I'll power through the birthday, and I'll give my wife the silent treatment later, not during my son's birthday party. So that was an underfunctioning, which again triggers Kalani to be more codependent and to put him down, and to see him as a child and to control him, or, assume that he's going to mess things up, talk to him in a way that makes him feel belittled. Tania, historically has been on camera anyway, doing that with him, talking down to him, trying to control him, saying, you're gonna screw things up, giving this message of like, you are a screw up and it's my job to fix it. But he does a pretty good job where he pushes back. He's just like, I don't think you know me well enough, and I don't think you're giving me enough of a chance, and you're kind of hurting my feelings. You make me feel like I'm an idiot, and I haven't even made a mistake here. And you're always looming. This is when they were fixing the cabinets in the shack that they're living in. I don't know if they call it a shack, but anyway. So we'll see how this plays out.
Don't act like my concerns aren't like valid. And it's kind of gotten a little worse since you've been here in the States.
No.
I drink a lot. So for me to say that he drinks a lot, he drinks a lot.
I don't drink that much.
What did
All right, so we're learning that, at least for Tania, she considers herself drinking a lot. She says, he drinks even more than me. Okay, so she's worried, and she's like saying to him, don't act like my feelings aren't valid. So, yeah, a way to respond to codependent people, usually not always, but I would definitely say this to Syngin. And I don't know if she's codependent because I don't know what's going on inside of her. She has codependent behavior, but I don't know if she actually suffers from codependency. But for him, what I would say to him is validate her feelings. Say, honey, I get that you're afraid, and I'm on the same page with you. I don't want to drink too much. I don't want to come home drunk every night from the bar. And honestly, between you and me, I'm kind of at risk for that. It's been a while since I've worked at a bar, and I don't know. So, I'm kind of worried about. I don't want to do that though, and we'll keep it on. We're on the same page here. Your worries are fine. I don't think I'm going to do it though. I don't think you give me enough credit, but I'm on board with you. Okay. So that's validating her worries, because her worries are okay. Her anxiety is fine. It's not like she's worried the planet is going to explode. She's worried about something that could happen that would be not great for their relationship. So he's saying, yeah, I agree with you. I worry about that too. I don't think that's going to happen though, and I want you to give me a chance. And if we start seeing signs of that happening, let's work together as a team so that doesn't happen. Maybe I'll change jobs. Maybe I'll just work a different shift, or I'll resolve not to drink on the job. Or, let's work on that together. That's what an adult does. That's what someone standing on their own 2 feet does. That's what a differentiated, mature person does. What an immature person does, or what a slight underfunctioner does, is to say, why are you worried? Knock it off. Like everything will be fine. When from the outside, you're like, well, that's not rational, because there is a risk. We all acknowledge there's a risk. You're predicting it's going to be fine, but you can't say that there's no risk there. And to deny the risk makes you look like an immature child who's in denial.
Another one of my issues with Syngin, he is no different in America than he was in South Africa.
Does that raise red flags? Or?
It raises a lot of red flags for me.
I mean, are you drinking early in the morning, drinking?
I will have beer at 10 a.m. if I feel like having a beer at 10 a.m. And maybe I will chill down later, and then I'll go party at the night.
Okay, so we're hearing him talk about drinking in the morning sometimes. Doesn't necessarily indicate that there's a problem. Even hearing that he drinks a lot, we don't, problem with substances isn't necessarily correlated with how much you drink. It often is. And certainly chemical dependency, meaning that you have a physical withdrawal symptoms when you step outside of your normal regimen of use is biologically likely. But so, I can't know if he has a problem. Maybe they'll give more details about it. But this isn't, I didn't know. I didn't know that he drank that much. I didn't know. She's saying, well, we did see her pretty intoxicated that one night when she was in Costa Rica, I believe. But, one night, who knows? It's interesting. So let's see if we can hear more data. Now, usually people drink a lot. Well, I'd imagine there's two possibilities with him, given what we know about him. One is that culturally and where he's from, it's that there's not much else to do, and I found that to be true. Like I have friends from pretty rural areas in the United States, and what they will almost always tell me is that there's just a ton of drinking and drugging because there's just nothing else to do. You just feel like you're bored, and especially when you're a teenager, there's no excitement, and you know all the same people, and you just let's just get drunk, or let's just get high, or let's snort this or that, just to have something new happen in your life. So there's a possibility that, because the way he talks about his community and where he was from, it sounds like that might have been a thing. He says, everyone drinks that much where I'm from. The other possibility is that he's self-medicating for traumas. He doesn't exhibit a lot of trauma reactivity, so I don't know. The other factor I'll say is that when you oppress a community, they often might turn to substances because the community is suffering, and so the community might all agree, let's just numb ourselves out. I don't know, but let's see what data we can glean from this.
I'm not gonna sit, I have to sit at home right now. I feel like a beer, but I haven't had breakfast. I want a beer, I'll have beer.
Exactly, but you always want to have a beer.
Just
You're
throw some
always
cereal
list for
in
a
it.
beer.
You're good.
Always.
In South Africa, yes, I was very free. I didn't worry about the future. I didn't worry about if I had a job next week or anything, This is a much different scenario.
Okay, so he's saying, look, in South Africa, yeah, I didn't know what my future was. It sounded like it was the economy wasn't doing well or something. And he's like, yeah, I might as well drink. Here, it's different. I actually have something to look forward to. And that's often true for people when you have prospects, you have a future. People are less likely to develop addictions or to sustain addictions. Whereas when there's no hope for the future in a community, it's like, well, why not get drunk, kind of a thing. Now, I wouldn't recommend that because there's a lot of problems from chronic drinking. But the other thing I'll say is we're starting to maybe see a behind it, because they haven't talked about this yet, and maybe this has been an ongoing issue, that because when you suffer from codependency, you have a deep need to solve someone else's problems and not focus on the self. And a very attractive partner is someone who has an addiction because they have a chronic self-destructive problem that will likely sustain itself, and you can be codependent with that. You can be like constantly criticizing them or trying to change them or trying to manage them or enable them or, just obsessed with solving their problem. And the codependent person and the person suffering from the addiction fit very well together. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of putting down the underfunctioner. The underfunctioner feels ashamed and put down, drinks more, drinks to spite the codependent. It's a cycle that really just sustains itself. So that I didn't know that he drank that much, so it's possible she chose him subconsciously because of that. It's also possible that behind the scenes there's been a fair amount of codependency around drinking that we just aren't privy to until now.
For me, so there's a lot more on the line for me. I'm definitely not gonna sabotage any chances I have now that I'm just freshly working in the States.
I just don't want this to be a repeat of the past, and that's it. And it's more, I'm just nervous, and I'm nervous to be let down because I don't want to be let down.
Great. Very differentiated, calm. I'm worried. I'm worried about being let down. I'm worried about what happened because of things that have happened in the past. That's what I'm feeling. Good. That's where if you're trying to combat your own internal motivations for codependency over functioning, that's the way to go. Say, okay, what's the baseline here? I'm worried about the future, and so I'm just going to say that you're a grown man. I know you love me, and I hope you can just hear my anxiety and take it into account or validate my anxiety or something. Let's see what he says.
Is actions line up with words?
I can tell you 100 times, sorry, whatever, it doesn't help.
I know,
so-
I don't want to hear it. You've told me 100
Exactly.
times.
So
I want actions now.
that's why I said.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's frustrating to me when I see that my own wife doesn't take me seriously and just thinks I'm going to screw up again.
Yeah, one way to keep underfunctioners underfunctioning is to constantly criticize them and give them the clear impression that you think they're an idiot, and to constantly point out all the ways that they've been an idiot because you're just cataloging every single moment the other person has made a mistake in your eyes. Because you essentially become brainwashed by the codependent person that you're an idiot and you can't do anything on your own. So it's okay to have anxiety, but what do you do with it? If you transfer the anxiety into, I'm going to put you down and say, and because in this moment, she's above him. She's his mom. You better not let me down. It's like, hey, like, you're not above me. Like, you can be worried about the future, but I haven't done anything wrong yet. Like, you've already written my future as if I'm a total screw up, and I haven't even screwed up yet. So, give me a break. How about you get mad at me when I do something wrong instead of assuming I'm going to do something wrong because I'm like inherently a stupid person in your eyes? Like, that hurts my feelings. So that kind of vibe to someone could absolutely force them into an underfunctioning position, and then that locks in the overfunctioning, underfunctioning. But he does a pretty good job of pushing back. He doesn't, he pushes back, but he doesn't flip out, and he doesn't give in to the temptation to say, like, well, if she thinks I'm stupid, then I'll show her how stupid I am. Sometimes people will do that kind of thing. At least we haven't seen that on camera. So I think a good protective factor is that he's just like, look, trust me, just relax. Everything will be okay. Having said that, maybe y'all have seen what happens, and maybe he's a total screw up. And all his reassurance means nothing. I don't know.
I get that there's a lot going on and a lot's on me right now, but I just need Tanya to trust me and understand me a little more.
All right, well, that is it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and take care of others, because we all deserve it. We really, really do.